I work with clients, I'm sure you do the same thing. I'll tell them, if you tell me one more time I need to fix you, we're not working together, because I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to help show you, guide you the way, but I can't fix you. There's nothing wrong with you. So it's very, very interesting. I think the approach that we are doing. I also have people say, so you're new age, and I say there's nothing new about what I am. I don't know what new age is, because it's truly the fundamentals of creation throughout time, if we wanted to accept it as that. Yeah. And so there's nothing new about it, and it's truly beautiful. Truly, truly beautiful.
But don't you find that the clients, being that what you put out is what you get back, and everything really is in its own time and place, so the clients will just naturally be attracted to you. There's not a great deal of pushing, or it's all about vibration. So if you've come into that place, an awareness through your heart that this is the work that you're meant to be doing, the right clients at the right time will show up in the right place,
right
way.
And also other clients will show up and they're just not a fit right now, but it opens their horizon to what the possibilities that they can commit to for themselves. And that's the beauty of it. You don't turn anyone away when you're talking with them. You may not take them on as a client, just as they may not want to take you on as a coach. So it's a beautiful mix, because we're not meant to serve everyone. We all are so uniquely beautiful that the right people, as you said, do come into us. And when we can help, when we work with them and we see the change and the growth, isn't that the most magnificent feeling?
Yes. I've often had tears at the end of the day sometimes, and think, I've help somebody there where they've had years of suffering, or they've had a significant breakthrough. And and that makes my heart really expand, and really opens my essence up, that I've been just a vehicle for that shift and that transformation. And often I keep in contact with a lot of my clients, and they'll send me emails 6 months on telling me great things that have happened, and I do get a lot of referrals as well, which is about heart again. Their heart is in it, and
exactly.
They'll see someone else suffering, and look, you've got to go and see this guy. Oh well, what does he do? What does he do? Well, specifically, what is he going to be doing?
Right.
And I wouldn't say that I was an awakening coach necessarily. I would just say I'm a coach. I'm also a hypnotherapist. I'm awake to something else other than my personality, other than Daniel Hill, who talks here and is male, and there's something else that I got in contact with.
Right.
But there are also, I think Carl Jung was particularly spiritual, and I believe he was a humanistic counselor. I think I'd know more.
Yes.
But there was, he was, and there are other people as well. There's a book that came up on a Facebook post recently, and it's called In Case of Spiritual Emergency. And it's really that when people are having quite a lot of psychological problems sometimes, it really is an awakening of a spiritual self, that the ego's very lost and struggling to find sense in the world, rather like Neo in the Matrix. Life's just not quite right. It's just not really working anymore. And there becomes a search for peace and understanding of how reality truly is, and how they can engage in reality in a more purposeful and loving and peaceful way, so they can get that back from reality.
How would you explain, if someone asked you, I'll ask you.
Okay.
The human ego, period, there are benefits, there are some aspects that are beneficial. How would you explain that to somebody seeking and searching and trying to separate the two? I really believe that this is the time in our history where it's groundbreaking between the separation of the divine and the ego part of us.
The ego has, on some level, helped humanity survive to get to this place. Mm-hmm. It is primarily concerned with I, not we, it's I. Mm-hmm. And a spiritual shift would be going more to we. Mm-hmm. Now, the I is concerned with the self, and that is, if you break down the Enneagram, because I do Enneagram mentoring as well, and the Enneagram breaks down the ego into the 3 concepts or parts, which are love and approval, the seeking of love and approval, the seeking of security, and the seeking of control. So years ago, when we were even Neanderthal, if we were cast out from our pack, our society, and weren't approved on anymore, mm-hmm. we would die.
Right.
There's no beating around the bush. You would die. Mm-hmm. You had to be part of the pack, of the group, and you had to be approved of. Mm-hmm. And if you would either die quickly or you die slowly. And this happens with animals as well. So I think even lions, one is the more dominant male, and he ousts the older lion out. The older lion has to put his tail between his legs, and he has to go off, and he'll go off to die. Mm-hmm. With the security types, there's always a tendency to either have competency, avoid worst case scenarios, so that you're feeling safe and you're analyzing everything and making sure that we've got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and we're all safe, because we were invaded constantly from nations and even counties and states in America, and you got Native American Indians who happily live in there for how many tens of thousands of years, and then suddenly these white people suddenly come along with these guns and take over. Right. So and then you've got control. So where would we be if we had no control or have no wish to have control? So it's also important not to go in, I want to get rid of the ego, and I do meet people sort of not necessarily in my coaching. I see a lot of it on the YouTube with people following spiritual teachers, and people say, so did his ego just die? And even someone like Eckhart Tolle will say that his ego now is 20 to 30% in the background. It's 70 or 80%. So there's still a 2 or 3 buzzing around, or 2 or 3 out of 10 buzzing around in the background. But he's just got more awareness of his essence, mm-hmm. spiritual stuff, mm-hmm. and that you end up paying more attention to that, and eventually begin to understand that listening to that more than the ego that has an agenda will benefit you so much more than the pain that you will receive by following an egoic, never-ending wanting to get to be, the postponing of happiness.
Right. It's
just not there. And it's really from millennia of conditioning, trauma, the belief that we are separate, that we aren't part of oneness, we're not part of a whole, and we've come through various dimensions and ages, and there is the awareness by certain people saying that this is a new age, whether it is, whether it isn't. I certainly believe it is, but who cares? We're just where we are. Mm-hmm. And I think humanity is waking up and becoming more unified. Mm-hmm. I was in Mexico recently, and I was reading up on the Mayans, that the one of the prophecies that they had was the unity of humankind. And it said, as the things of the world begin to break down, the things of the spirit begin to gather us together. Mm. And it's our returning to nature and our fundamental essence which will unite us all. I mean, a little simple example is the miners in Chile. Suddenly the whole world is concerned about these miners in Chile. I mean, why would you be bothered about that particularly? But no, we feel it. Why? Because we feel it from our hearts. We have telethons and all different types of things that are happening, and it's more of a global village now than it ever has been.
Absolutely.
7 billion people, that we begin to care more. And the more that we begin to realize that our neighbors, like, Russia aren't going to bomb the hell out of us. Like when I was growing up, I was 14 years old thinking, I hope Gorbachev doesn't press the button, And when he goes to talk with Reagan, at Reykjavik, which I think it was in 1988, I hope they create some kind of peace treaty. Otherwise, I'm never going to see the, 1990s. And now we have it with either the Middle East or North Korea. And it's really understanding that most people who live on this planet are very governed by what they're told by mass media, and to see through all of that conditioning, all of that fear, that there's many people who profit in fear. And we ultimately can come home to understanding that it's all about love. There's nothing else important other than love. If you had a week left to live and you were well up to your last day, what would you do? Would you be concerned with an agenda of what you needed to do, or would you be tidying up affairs and making peace with people that maybe you had been having problems with throughout your life and various challenges, and doing what you love? Would you waste time going, oh, well, I really wonder what North Korea's going to be doing, or what? You're not going to be bothered about that. You've got 7 days left. And I saw this shift in my father, who died of terminal cancer, and that really was the greatest inheritance that I was ever left, because I wasn't left anything financial. So it was this awareness of being present, which a lot of the spiritual teachings simply say, come home to essence and presence. And if you do, you interrupt the ego, because the ego's agenda for love and approval, security and control is always about the next moment, not the present moment, the next moment.
That's beautiful.